tell me how to say ladies and gentlemen in gender-neutral terms.
Realize that you can watch all of the shit that's out there. Don't let either company trick you into thinking it's a us versus them thing. Just enjoy the wrestling. Whether it's WWE or AEW or NXT, you guys don't have to choose. You can watch it all. That's rad.
Fight forever, Guardian!
I think he broke it.
That's what you made me do!
And you're listening to Hell in a Cell Radio.
The Hell in a Cell Talk Radio.
Hell in a Cell Radio.
Hell in a Cell Talk Radio.
Hell in a Cell Talk Radio.
No, and apparently I have a stalker, and I shan't mess with him because he has the second biggest ghost Facebook group ever.
Ghost, you said?
Ghost. You know, the band Ghost that doesn't even know he exists.
Yes.
That one.
Yes.
You dumb fuck, Michael Springer. You retired from the where did he work? Oh, I blocked her. Go ahead, Derek.
Oh, I remember because I read it and I was like, "What? The Miami Dade County? It was something Dade County was a psychiatrist or something like that.
He was the doctor of psychology at the Miami-Dade Monroe chapter of Florida Psychological Association.
Yes.
There ain't no way he's still practicing.
Nope.
And B, it's probably not true, but I was letting him have his fun because I was recording the whole thing. It started. Where's the creeper in the window? I'm working on it. I can't figure out how to. It'll be coming up soon. He went on a rant on somebody about Columbus Day, or the formerly known as in this house, Columbus Day, now known as Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yes.
And then used the hard R on this guy. Now, I'm not triggered by the hard R because I've been called that all my life. Sometimes I get still called it by ignorant fucks that can't think of another word for it. Like, yeah, more than you know, sweetheart. More than you know. But people started pointing out what a dickhead this guy was being to a person that was just having a casual conversation with him about why that day should change. There wasn't any trolling. There wasn't any insulting. Well, from this gentleman. And he went right in with the hard R. He reticulated. Yes, that's the word, Michael. So everybody pointed it out, but he's just deleting messages. And I was like, okay. So I just took a screenshot of his comment and superimposed it onto a picture of the lead singer of Ghost going, it was presenting this asshole.
Yeah.
That sent that dude over the edge. Over the edge. And you all saw it. It's a 1:39 video of how gay I am. I'm gay because I like women's hockey.
Which doesn't make
you gay.
Isn't that the opposite, right?
Yeah. The complete
you're a loser and gay because you like women's hockey. I'm like, doesn't
that make me heterosexual?
Yeah, doesn't that make me the whatever? You're an idiot. What else did he? I mean, and the funny thing was he was using all this stuff and also editing out the S word and the F word. He was editing out. Why did I just censor myself? He's editing out shit and fuck.
Yeah.
But throwing all this language at me about being gay. I was like, boy, if you only knew. And
God hates the gays.
Yes, God hates the gays. Yep. They hate that too.
He can bash the gays, but he can't use curse words because the Lord frowns upon swearing. You see what I'm saying? That's how it works. That's the rule.
I was just sitting there laughing, going, I just like, this is fucking hilarious that And then I come to find out that he does this all the time, and he has 20 screen names, and then he forgets and then picks on somebody else. But you're not bullying me, Michael Springer of Miami-Dade, Florida, born in Chicago, Illinois. You dumb fuck. You can dox me and search for my address. I'll be waiting right here. You could guess if this Virginia guy, born in Philadelphia, New Jersey, has a gun or not.
I had a conversation at work yesterday. They were talking about, I don't understand why it's Columbus Day and it's history and why they want to change it, blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, it's kind of funny. You guys want to protect Christopher Columbus, but you don't want your young grandkids and nieces and nephews to find out how racist their grandparents were to my people. You want to get all that out there, but let's learn about Columbus.
Somebody said something to me. Well, not to me, but I was part of the conversation, and it blew my fucking mind. That I'm quoting this gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Black people complain too much about the past.
Yeah, well, they got a point there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bastards. Shut up.
There's a
and my counterpoint was like, I'm not gonna get into an argument with you, but I just want to counterpoint by saying I know people whose family members were threatened or had family members hung in trees. Are they complaining too much though?
Yes. Yeah. There's a funny meme that my brother will send me of Dave Chappelle, and it's like, black people complain too much about Jim Crow and the civil rights. That was so long ago. And then, it shows Dave Chappelle. He goes, bitch, you mean my grandma?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Bitch, like, you mean grandma, you motherfucker?
People, they tell, I hear that stuff, and I go, my grandmother, she's 82. They hung her brother from a tree. She's still here. Like, she's not gone. She's still here to tell us the story. My mom.
This just happened. Last generation, dickheads.
Like, my parents are in their 60s. They had to be escorted to school when you guys integrated schools. It's not that long ago. I mean, hell, you beat Rodney King up in the early 90s. Like, all this stuff isn't that long ago, but,
Yeah, we complain too much. I wanted to, I often use this analogy. I hate using it, but to people that say that we complain too much, and would ask them if they knew if they know, and when I brought this up, everyone knows someone in their lives, unfortunately, a woman that's been sexually assaulted, molested,
mm-hmm.
or raped.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, would you tell that person to just get over it because it happened so long ago?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah.
When Obama was voted president, and we celebrated across the world.
Are you happy now?
I remember my grandmother was like in the other room crying, and we're like, what are you crying for, Nana? And she goes, you got to understand, my birth certificate said colored on it when I was born. And she goes, and now we have a black president. It just shows how far we've come and how far we have to go. But, they don't care because, it's not their history.
Yeah, and of course,
American really that hard to write on a piece of paper.
Yeah, yeah, but they'll tell you, Derek, that the reason we elected a black president is why we're in this situation now. That it's his fault. He's the one that divided our country.
All of it. It's all his fault.
Yes, because everything was fine before Obama. Because before Obama, no one knew how many people were racist or were hiding their races for 8 years.
Yeah, he brought it up.
He brought it all out. So this is his fault.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the guy. Central Park 5. Was it 5?
Yeah, it was Central Park 5. They exonerated 5. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't call for their heads before hearing any facts or figures.
Yeah. They're like, oh, Donald Trump wasn't a racist until he became president. Like, did you see the article out in the paper to get those young men? And then his reason was, I'm pretty sure they did something to deserve getting in trouble.
Pretty sure they did something.
Or the lawsuit that he lost when he was a real estate quote unquote baron, where he wouldn't rent. He wouldn't rent his location to black people. He wouldn't rent any of his apartments to black people.
Or when they had the debates, in every debate he referred to black people as the blacks, like we were a band or something. Like that's like
Where's my African American? Where's my African American? There he is.
There's a gentleman I won't dignify by his name, but I've known him. Well, I haven't known him in the last 2 years. By the way, Ash, Mike. Well, hold on. Michael says to not steal any thunder here, but my native ancestors may also have a thing or two to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, couldn't be. Get over it. We gave you casinos.
Yeah. You can't bash Christopher Columbus because it's Italian Heritage Month, so you can't.
Fuck that motherfucker in
talk
his fucking Dago ass. How about that? Quote unquote on the record, suck my pepperoni. Okay. From a man with a greasy head and a long last name that ends in a vowel. Fuck Christopher Columbus. And also being from the Philly area, and Craig will understand this. Fuck Frank Rizzo up his ass. Frank Rizzo was a piece of shit.
Yes.
Oh, he was nice to my grandfather. Oh, whoop-de fucking do. What color was he? Was he white? Oh, well, I'm surprised.
It's like when people go, well, the Irish had it bad when we came to this country, Derek. Yeah, then you came and took it out on my people. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Italians were persecuted too. Yeah, and then they ran the fucking cities for 50 years.
Did Italians and Irish people have their own water fountains?
No.
Yeah. Did they have their own bathrooms?
No.
Okay, so yeah, they must have really had it.
The Dons had their own bathroom.
Yeah, they must have really had it bad then.
There's an Irish guy I work with. He goes, "Do you know where Paddy Wagon came from, Derek?"
Oh, shut the fuck!
You want to compare words, buddy? I got a big one for you.
I got a couple words to compare with Paddy Wagon. Let me go down the list.
Yeah, some of them are so old. Yeah, I got some for you, buddy.
Yeah.
What's the one? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's turn on some old Disney cartoons and see how they depicted us in these Disney cartoons.
Yeah.
The deleted scene from Fantasia.
Yes.
I didn't know that existed until about 2-3 years ago. And it's one of my favorite movies. And I saw it when it got re-released in the 80s. I had no idea about, I was a white dude. I didn't know any difference. That's what I mean by growing up and changing and evolving, where I'm like, oh, that's just not funny, is it?
Or even
I shouldn't be saying that word anymore.
The old Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yeah, but there is a Fantasia, and it's one of Kelly's favorite movies. And I was reading up on it randomly, and I was looking at just like shit deleted from Disney and Warner Brothers cartoons, Merry Melodies. And it's this pixie, or it's this satyr, and one of them is black, and she's of course the servant because dudes drew it. Yeah. And I'm like, did you know? She goes, oh yeah, I know about that. Oh boy, yeah. And there's a reason why, and I just was gonna bring it up, but that's what Michael said in the chat. Come on, let's go watch Song of the South.
It's funny.
I saw that in the theater. Go ahead, D.
No, I would say it's funny. My brother is
okay.
My brother's 8 years older than me, and I remember watching Dumbo and the crows in Dumbo, and I remember he just one day to young Derek. He goes, "Derek, who talks like that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Have you ever met anybody who speaks like that?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "All right, just think about it." And I just thought, I was like, "Huh." And then a couple of years later, I was like, "Holy shit!" They would show us that in school. Like, Jesus Christ. Well,
I'm trying to find a humorous way to word this for the episode, not the title, but the description, because I can't say. It says talking racism, and I wanted to write, but not enough people know me that it would be tongue in cheek. The blacks ask for enough. So I'm trying to. I need you two to find a funny way to put that where I won't get shot.
I mean, if you want to tie it into wrestling, on one of the biggest nights of the year last night, AEW took their one black star that they're pushing, and they have them job out. So I mean, if you want to tie it into my man Swerve, being beat in probably the biggest match he's had in AEW so far, you know.
Yeah. And if we're staying on the anti-Semitic realm, the what they did with MJF.
Oh, what were they thinking? Who thought that was a good idea?
MJF, he signed off on it. Obviously,
he's been doing the roll of quarters thing with MJF on the indie circuit.
Mhm.
But nobody read that, went through it, and went,
Maybe not now.
Mm.
Like maybe this isn't the time.
This just happened yesterday. Can we?
Uh,
So, I wrote it, talking racism and jobbing out the one black star you have. Is that better?
yeah. Well, Hobbs did beat up Jericho, but I don't think it doesn't even itself out.
Yeah,
No.
and it was a squash.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it doesn't even
Yeah,
anything out.
because that absolutely sounds like something a white guy would say on your Twitter reply going, yeah, well, Hobbs beat up Jericho. Yeah, well, where's Jericho's wife on January 6th, motherfucker?
Yeah.
I got lines for all of them. Oh, I got Jericho. There we go. God, this has been
Meanwhile,
45 minutes of talking
yeah.
that shit. Meanwhile, a bunch
mean-
of shit happened. Yes, last night, in fact, that apparently didn't get ratings for shit.
Well, as far as the ratings go, the NXT show did close to 1 million, 936,000, while the AEW show did about was it 400,000, 600,000?
What?
It was like 6, yeah.
Yeah, they were beaten handily. They got 636,000. No,
fucking kidding me.
no.
Yeah.
And NXT, we're talking about AEW jobbing out their black stars. Their NXT main event featured their black NXT champion.
Yeah, and it ended with him being in the ring raising his hands with the Undertaker.
Yes.
What a night and day thing there.
Yes. A tale of two companies.
Considering who the Taker is.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, just, I mean, wait. I'm processing this. So the American Badass Taker came back,
Mhm.
and he didn't come out to "You're Gonna Pay," which is arguably a better song. It's not arguably, it is. But he came out for the Kid Rock song, which sucks ass.
So bad, so terrible.
And then raised the black dude's hand.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. After he knocked out Rick Steiner's son, and we know with Rick Steiner, we know how his mind works nowadays.
Yes.
So yeah. What a time.
Wow. You two break this down.
What a time to be alive, huh?
Holy fucking shit.
Yeah, AEW, NXT got a 921,000, and AEW did 600,000 in their head-to-head matchup. That I didn't see as NXT loading their card to kind of crush AEW, because NXT has been on Tuesday nights for quite a while. It's AEW that was going to on Tuesday because of the baseball playoffs. So it was, if anything, it was just NXT protecting their turf. And what sets them apart is WWE can send their big stars down to AEW to NXT whenever they want. So they don't need to do it for a ratings grab or anything. They always, I mean, Becky's been coming down. Dominic Mysterio is coming down to NXT. So there wasn't. It wasn't a swipe. I didn't see it as a shot at AEW. And if it was, why wouldn't AEW, if that's the way AEW counter programs with the shit they put on last night, that's what you wanted to grab ratings with? I'm a big fan of Swerve and Daniel Bryan. I want to put them on first.
No.
Yeah.
If you want to break, why wouldn't you have your world champion come out first? Even if to do that horrible angle with Juice Robinson. But why wouldn't you put your best foot forward and put your major stars on, or bring Edge out first?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, "Oh, he's gonna wrestle tonight." Okay, put him on first then.
It was so funny because I had both of them on, and AEW had the overrun. So Tamara came in the room and she was looking. She goes, "Oh, is that Edge?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Is he fighting a giant dinosaur?" And she was like, "What is going on here?" And I had to explain who Luchasaurus was. But and not for nothing, lost in all this, I believe the NXT from last week got a higher rating than the AEW did last week on their regular time slot. And people are forgetting that they're looking for a TV deal too. So they're loading up these shows to find a home for NXT. And for all the talking that, Tony Khan did on Twitter yesterday and calling Shawn Michaels and Triple H bald motherfuckers and throwing shots at Vince McMahon and all this.
Okay, cokehead.
Yeah, and for him to just go quietly into the night, then he goes, I think I saw this morning, he was like, people think Shawn Michaels going to win Booker of the Year, and not after the show I watched last night. And I'm like, well, who really cares about winning a Wrestling Observer?
You ain't gonna win Booker of the Year, motherfucker.
I was about to say, you're not gonna get it, sir. And I remember I was on this show 2 weeks ago. I said, WWE signed Brian Pillman Jr. and they signed Jay Cargill, who are both in their early 30s. And Tony Khan got Edge, who's going to be 50. And I remember I said, I've seen this story before. And then Dave Meltzer comes out and he goes, this is very reminiscent of 95, 96 WCW, WWF, where they're signing all the old guys and WWE's just going to take all the young people and build them up. And then you look at their biggest show and it ended with Christian and Edge as the focal point, of the show.
Yeah.
So, it proves my point.
It does prove your point because when the influx of all the older guys came to WCW, Hogan, Savage, Brutus Beefcake for a lesser term, Honky Tonk Man, Greg Valentine.
Much lesser.
And meanwhile, going to WWE, Steve Austin, Mick Foley, Scott Hall, they all found glory. Mark Hallis, changed his name. Thankfully, didn't come out of an egg, but they all had
fucking stupid idea.
Hall of Fame careers leaving WCW. And the thing is, the ironic thing is, Derek, was that Hogan and Savage left because Vince thought they were too old.
Yeah.
He wanted to make Savage a commentator, and Savage like, I can still go.
I don't want to be a commentator, brother.
Yeah. And Vince had already thought that Hogan had lost his luster and, was ready for him to leave anyway, but he thought those guys were too old. And those guys thought, obviously, they think they still had something left. They come to WCW, they job all the young guys out, and they come over to WWE with no guarantees. I mean, we WCW fans knew how great Steve Austin was back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I said, he's going to go to WWF and they're going to ruin him. And so they're going to give him a stupid gimmick. I said this before he even got there. They're going to give him a stupid gimmick and they're going to job him out. And this guy, is probably the most talented guy on the roster. They gave him a stupid gimmick. Gave even Ted DiBiase as his manager, which isn't a bad thing, but
his gimmick was still stupid.
It's still stupid. Same thing with Mick Foley.
Mm-hmm.
Call him Mason the Mutilator. No, wait, we'll call him Mankind. That's better. Much better.
And an underrated thing with Steve Austin, everybody always points to, the Austin 316 at King of the Ring. But I think he really shined when they put him in the ring with Savio Vega, like right when he was breaking off from Ted DiBiase. And they had all those great matches that kind of led up to the Austin 316 thing. And an underrated move that Vince did, and I'm not a Vince fan, but it showed you his mindset set compared to WCW was he signed that liar Mark Merrow, who everybody knows I have a vendetta against.
A little beef with.
God, yeah.
And he looked at his wife.
I think that's more of it. Derek, usually I side with you, but I think that's more of an issue because even as I was a kid, I was going.
Look, I admit it. I thought to the point
I thought
where
the same thing, Derek. I thought the same thing. You're not.
To the
We're
point where I thought
cool. We're
Young
cool.
was the man with a bad tan. I'm sorry, Darren.
I listened to that man talk and I was like,
No, but finish your point.
Sorry, Derek. Sorry
I was going to say the genius of Vince then was Mark Merrill walks in with his wife and he goes, holy smokes, we can put her on TV and she can make.
Yeah, that was genius.
He was in WCW and I'm pretty sure Sable was his wife and they had him with, Kimberly Page.
Yeah.
Which is nothing against her, but The man had his own wife at home who could have made you money. So it's a bunch of mishaps that are happening. There were talks that, Ricky Starks is going to be the next guy to leave when his contract's up to go to WWF. And if I'm Ricky Starks, yeah, I go because nothing's going to, they put the tag team titles on him, and it wasn't even Tony Khan's idea. It was FTR's idea. So that just shows you how the man's thinking. And if I'm Ricky, I'm calling Cody and I'm going, hey, keep a spot for me, buddy. I'll see you in a couple of months.
Yeah, well, you remember Ricky was there when Cody went at WrestleMania. He was with Ricky there, and Ricky's not going to be the only one to go because even though he's made no secret of it, the bidding war 2024, MJF would be stupid not to go to WWE.
Yeah,
especially with what he can do on the mic.
And I think the news that Endeavor fully backs Triple H as the creative guy, it's just going to take them right back to where they were last year when Vince retired, and everybody's going to want to work with Triple H again.
Yeah, and he knows what's best for business. Speaking on that vein, and people leaving AEW, with Triple H being in charge, is it his call to bring back CM Punk? Because he sees dollar signs. I'm sure he would put any personal animosity aside.
Yeah, and I think the whole WWE doesn't want to sign him there. I think that's just a smokescreen because this would be the biggest FU to Tony Khan that they could do. I thought Cody would be the biggest FU, but if you could still Punk, who they treated like their savior,
there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, I read an interview with Tony Khan today where he was like, he's never felt in much danger as he did when Punk had his little incident with Jack Perry. And if I was Triple H, I'd sign Punk. I'd have him mock Tony Khan on my TV. I would do whatever I could and just, give him the middle finger. Because as we said before, when I was on here before, they screwed the pooch on on that whole CM Punk thing from the beginning. They just ruined it.
Yeah. Survivor Series in Chicago. I mean, that's a gimme.
Yep.
That's a gimme.
What's the over under on you think this is actually happening? Do you really think? Because I know Triple H. I happen to think without Vince there, I 100% without any reservation, without question, believe that Triple H can patch that up and get CM Punk back in there. I mean, we were a step away. I know they're talking about, well, he was just on that, whatever that program was on Fox, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
That's not the point. It was that close.
And
I think without Vince in the picture, I think that is a much easier bridge to rebuild and repair than when Vince was there. So I think it's happening.
Yeah. I mean,
I do too.
Bruno came back. Warrior came back. Brett came back.
Came back, yes.
And those are all with Vince there.
Yeah,
Hogan came back.
Yeah.
No.
I think they can patch it up. And I think if they did, they would fully maximize Punk. Because you remember when Punk came back, everybody was like, oh, he can have these matches with, Omega and Danielson and this and that. And he was in the ring with, no offense, but they put him in the ring with like Darby Allin and all these other guys.
Nonsense.
So I think if he came back, I think they would put him in the ring with Seth. They would put him in the ring with Roman, who's been open about if it makes money and it makes sense, he'd work with him. You put him in there with Roman. You do as many big money matches you can get before, you put the guy in the Hall of Fame and he rides off into the sunset.
The way I see it, Derek, I think it's going to be, if they follow through with the proposed plan of Rock and Roman, I think you put Punk with Cody.
Oh, and that's money.
I think that.
Oh my God!
I think that's the big money matchup. Or you can have Punk win the Royal Rumble, and have Cody versus Roman. Cody wins the title at Rumble. WrestleMania night 1 is Roman versus Rock with no belt on the line. So, and night 2, Cody versus Punk for the title. That's just me being fantasy booking.
That's money. And if it's one thing about Triple H, he seems to know how to make money with these guys. Yeah, you do everything with Punk that Tony Khan didn't do, and Punk's going to be willing to play ball because if he messes up in WWE again, where's he going to go to Impact? Like
That
this
was
is
the
it.
scariest he ever was.
But here's the thing, Derek, and everyone, and I've noticed this on social media. Punk never had a single backstage issue or backstage fight or scuffle with anyone at WWE.
Anything.
So, like, he's gonna go to WWE. He's like, well, if he goes to WWE, he's gonna get his ass kicked. He never got no fight with anyone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
backstage, it was what
And
he
he
said. when
tried.
I'm working with children.
Yeah.
Remember they came into his dressing room after
Yeah,
he
he
called them out after the post media scrum. Jack Russell Terrier Perry was being a dick.
Yeah.
Jack
and-
Russell Terrier.
And Punk got his face. You got a problem with me? He goes, yeah, I believe I do. It's okay. Well, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
he
Well,
would-
then let's have a chat, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
everybody felt.
So no, Punk's
It's
not
just-
doesn't have a problem with anybody. He never had a problem with anyone in WWE because the company was more good to him than bad. He was just pissed off about the booking, like anyone else would. There should have been a Punk Daniel Bryan WrestleMania match that never happened. That was set up, tailor made, but Rock comes back and now we got to change everything.
Yeah, and I think people get lost when he did the whole Colt Cabana interview. He said, I didn't want to quit. I just walked out. They fired me. I didn't say I'm never coming back. He goes, they fired me.
Yeah. And I think it's the same thing with Edge, Derek. I think Edge gets this out of his system. He finished his career with Uncle Jay. 2 years, he goes back to WWE.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Or he
finishes that
does
career.
this, or he does this thing where he actually retired.
That would be great. Because
Yeah.
I still don't
I
know
just go ahead.
why
I'm
he's
sorry.
why he's using the spear with his neck the way it is. I still don't know why he's using that maneuver. That's how he got it fucked up in the first place.
Yeah. And I saw where Nash said, he goes, I legitimately worry about Edge's health wrestling those guys. He goes, nobody's safe. He goes, on the same show that Edge debuted, Darby Allin told Christian to slam him off the ring onto the steel step. Like, this is the company you're working for.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So, before I ask the last AEW question, I just wanted to add this because Ash brought it up, and I thought I even popped for this moment. The Ava Bloodline tease.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I was looking too much into this, but I was like, holy shit.
They put it on TV for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Please, I'm begging you. I don't care. I've said this before, and I will say it 1,000 times. I don't give a damn if the bloodline runs for 12 more years and they just interchange members. I goddamn love it. I want Paul out in a wheelchair talking shit when he can't walk anymore. I love that faction.
Yeah,
and I want it to go the distance. Even the Horsemen started having tiffs and switching out members. I want this to go forever until there's no more blood to fill in it.
Yeah,
damn it, please.
Now you have a way for Rock to come because it's like, okay, you messed with my daughter. Like, on top of the whole tribal chief thing, you brought my daughter into this and didn't clue me in. And like you said, it can go on forever because there's so many of them. You can bring in Jacob Fatu, who I think is awesome. You can bring him in. Umaga's son is training. Judging by his family, he's going to be great in 2-3 years because that's just how all of them are. You can just keep going.
I honestly thought, that Jacob Fatu should have had the solo role.
Yes,
I think he's definitely
Yeah.
he's a badass and he can pull it off because he legitimately is.
Yeah.
I think he's scared off because of his criminal background, which is kind of hypocrisy given the
I was
going
gonna say, interesting.
Yeah. But I that's the only reason to stay away from that. They've stayed away from Jacob Fatu. Having said that, now that Triple H is in charge, seeing a Jacob Fatu now doesn't seem that far, not that outlandish because he would definitely be a great part of the bloodline.
Yeah, I like what they're doing. I also liked another thing they did. I like that they took Brian Pillman Jr. and actually gave him like a character and a story instead of just having him out there in a Letterman jacket. Like they gave you a reason to care about him.
But and more importantly, D, they gave
I
him a
don't-
reason. They gave him a reason to change his name. One of the things
Yeah.
I hate the most about WWE, they'll take somebody that we know, Rick Steiner's son,
Yeah.
and dress him up exactly like his dad, and because he talks like his dad, get his haircut like his dad, moves like his dad, but we'll give him a stupid ass name.
Yeah.
With Brian Pillman Jr., he says, I know you know who my dad is, you know what my name is, but I'm not going by that because I don't know that guy. That guy didn't give me shit. So
Yeah.
I'm taking the name of the person who really was my dad. He gave a reason why he's not going by that. They never gave a reason why they gave it. It came up with fucking Braun Breaker or even just Ava Rain.
Yeah.
Why not call her name is just The Rock's daughter. Her last
Yeah.
name is Johnson. What's wrong with her name? I will never understand that.
I loved it. And everybody was like, well, he's changing his name. It's stupid. I'm like, but they gave him a reason.
Yes.
That's it. Like I said, in AEW, he was just Brian Pillman's son and he wore a Letterman jacket. And he had a good 3-week program with MJF and then they just completely ruined it. But I like what they
they dropped the ball, especially after the Behind the Ring episode that aired, and he got more eyes on him than ever before. That would have been the great time to push him. You know, you could have given him the same kind of push you gave fucking Orange Cassidy. What was wrong with why couldn't you have done that? You know, you have something there with the guy. You know, build him up instead of putting him in a tag team, in a job tag team, the Varsity Blondes. Great name, by the way.
Yeah.
But you could have gotten something out of Brian Pillman Jr. is my point, other than him being Brian Pillman Jr.
Another great thing they did. I love when I watch TV wrestling with Tamara and she points things out because she's a casual.
Mhm.
As you brought up, when Orange Cassidy beat Ray Phoenix, they
Yeah.
proceeded to run a Hispanic Heritage Month package celebrating Hispanic wrestlers, and she was like, "What? That doesn't. Why didn't they run that before the match? Like the man
Yeah.
just lost." I was like, they don't
know what they're doing.
Tell him. So Michael, wink, wink, not Ash. By the way, for those watching the stream, you see Michael in the corner, right below me. Little bit of a tease for y'all. Tell him you tell him his name is stupid. The name that's a tribute to his dead sister.
Yeah, the whole name has a meaning. Like,
yeah.
What did I miss?
No, I'm not saying his name is stupid. I'm saying they gave him a reason why they changed his name. Braun Breaker's name is stupid.
Yeah. No. But what's the reference to his dead? What did I miss?
His name is Lexus King.
Oh, Lexus. Never mind.
Yes, he said this in his promo. On my name is.
Yes, It will. We make content.
And the worst thing about the Braun Breaker thing was I saw an interview with him and he goes, right until NXT 2.0 went on the air, his name was going to be Rex Steiner. So why the hell did you change it from Rex Steiner to Braun Breaker? Or call him Braun Steiner? He's a Steiner. We know who he is. He can't hide it.
Know who he is? He sounds like who he is.
Yeah, but he sounds like him. He can't help it.
Why go the badass in this company?
But why would go through the trouble of saying, okay, we're going to change your name, but then dress him, shave his head, do everything exactly like his dad. So okay, we don't want to have you have any connection with your father, except you're going to dress like him. You already talk like him. You sound just like him.
Yeah,
and you're going to do all of the same maneuvers. If even not better. Good thing coming out of this, Paul Heyman in his corner. That can be Paul's Brock Lesnar going forward. That's your future world champion right there.
When he was hyping him up, it gelled. It looked natural when he was hyping him up in the locker room. It just fit.
Yes, he definitely can fit. Get rid of that stupid name, and you can have something. Speaking of wrestlers with famous fathers, we talked about Brian Pillman Jr. and Braun Breaker. Derek, I know I sent it to you, Dan, but did you see the trailer for Iron Claw?
Yes, I watched it when I was at work, and it's
holy shit.
I don't like going to movies where I know I'm gonna probably cry,
mm-hmm.
but just knowing the story, even when they showed the happy times, it's like, oh, you know how the story's gonna end, and you know that Fritz was a dick to these poor guys and blah, blah. And it's just like, oh, and it looked like it's gonna be amazing though. I'm glad they finally did a wrestling movie. This was probably the first one since The Wrestler where you can tell legit people put it together and it's gonna be good.
Yeah, the stunning visuals. They got the casting right. When I saw the Freebirds,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Well, and all that, and MJF is in it too, and even the guy they got playing Ric Flair. I just like, wow. I that's all I kept saying was wow. I like you said, it's like a Titanic movie. We know how it's gonna end, right? I mean, it's not a feel good movie. But yeah, for the cinematography, I was blown away. The fact that the story was being told, we've seen that, we've remarked on this podcast many times about both documentaries about the Heroes of World Class and about the Von Erich dynasty. It's a story that we've said for decades, man, it can make a movie out of this. But they've done it, and they've got an A-list cast in it, and
yeah, that's it's going in a direction I didn't think. I like the way they're framing the story just on the basics. I'm at first I was like, I don't know if I want to see this, and it's not because I'm like, this is gonna suck. I was just, I don't know if I want to do that again. That documentary, Heroes of World Class, is all I needed.
yeah.
And then you see the trailer, and I'm like, oh, okay.
And it's like they even pick like the snippets of the dialogue. Like you hear him go, the mother's talking to David, and I thought to myself, oh well, you know how the David story ends. And then you hear Kevin go, Mom, Dad's too hard on us. Can you say something? You got to protect us. And she's like, that's what you have your brothers for. And it's like, oh well, he's gonna be the last one left.
Oh my, yeah. Oh,
and they're talking about Carrie's motorcycle accident. Then you hear somebody yelling like, "You're supposed to protect your brothers. You're supposed to protect." And I was just like, "Oh, it's gonna be so much."
even the clip of Fritz Holt McElhenney, who I love and everything, say, I have my favorites. This goes David, you, and Carrie, and it's like, well, what father said that to his son?
Yeah, and it can always change. I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be a hard watch. Hard watch.
But it looked great, and again, I love the cast. I had never been a Zac Efron fan, but I was sharing with you guys over the past year the stills of him obviously getting in shape for this.
Yeah.
And playing Kevin, it's got to be the hardest, role. I'm a huge fan of Jeremy Allen White, obviously from The Bear, but and that's probably the biggest acting job, having a 5'8" guy looking like a 6'2" buff Kerry Von Erich, but visually, I mean, it's movie magic.
Yeah, they nailed it. Yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm excited for it, and I saw where Marshall Von Erich, one of Kevin's kids, he was like, I didn't think they were going to do a good job, but it looks amazing and blah, 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 blah. And I've always applauded Kevin for the way he's his boys are in the wrestling business. He's kept them away from the big companies, and he's letting them stay in so they're ready. And I'm pretty sure they're going to, people going, oh, they should go to AEW. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Kevin trusts the big company with his kids. He doesn't trust,
And Marshall and Ross, we were just talking about age. They're both, I think, late 30s, early 40s. So I think that the time for them to have gone to the big companies, not that they can't now, but that they should now. But I think that train has kind of sailed.
Yeah,
I don't think they needed or wanted it.
No, just like Kevin didn't.
Yeah,
need or he didn't need it. He didn't need it. Didn't want it. And he still doesn't need them. I mean, he's done the Hall of Fame, and he's done that Raw appearance, which was fucking awesome. I still love that. I still love that moment. I'm like, oh, he's gonna do it. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
And a lot of those guys, they protect their. You always hear the stories like, Bob Orton goes, I did everything in my power to keep Randy out of the business. I remember when Rick Rude went into the Hall of Fame and everybody's like, his son can talk. He looks like a wrestler. He looks good, blah, 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 blah. And, why did he never become a wrestler? He goes, my mom would never let me. My
Don't
mom
want
never
to.
let me in business. Yeah. So, you can always tell those guys who've seen so much, they do whatever they can to keep their kids out of the business.
Yeah, and it's rare because you see the other kind of kids, Derek, that because their father wasn't around, they wanted to get into business to get closer to their dad.
Yeah.
Because like a Brian Christopher did, like the Guerreros, and well, the Guerreros and Hearts were different. It's like, okay, you're going to be a wrestler, that's it, period.
Yeah.
You have no choice. But guys like but David Sammartino, Reed Flair, they did it to be closer to their dad. Jake Roberts did it to be closer to their dads.
Yeah, even we're talking about the Von Erichs. I forget his name. There were so many of them. What was the young one?
Chris?
He would always break his bones. Yeah, and he just
he had asthma. He should not have been jogging, let alone wrestling.
Yeah.
And he had brittle bone. So he was his bones hadn't calcified, so he broke very easily. He was like a shade, a little denser Mr. Glass, but he's someone that shouldn't have been wrestling anyway. Again, because of his brittle bones, because of his asthma, and he was only 5'4". There wasn't a whole lot he could do in the ring, but because of the intense pressure from his father, from being a Von Erich, from wanting to be closer to his brothers, to having to fill a void because of the loss at that point of David and Mike. He wanted to. He thought, I have to. I've got to save the family, and no, you don't.
Yeah,
we'd much rather have you.
Like I said, I'm very excited for the movie, and when you just look at stills of the brothers together, it's like, damn, they just look like wrestlers. They just look like they nothing else but wrestle.
Mm-hmm. It will be. I'm looking forward to seeing. I can't say behind the scenes of the movie's depiction of their starting out, of their rise to. And I hope this sheds a light on folks. Because I know a couple of people that saw it. It's like, I don't remember watching. I don't remember the Von Erichs. I said, yeah, there was wrestling before WWF. I mean, the wrestling outside of other than WWF.
Did you know that?
So it's like, did they just make this up? It's like, no, these are real people, and all this happened, and they were the Beatles of the Von Erichs were the Beatles of wrestling because they couldn't go anywhere. And I tell they closed down Astro World in Texas, which is like the Great Adventure of Texas. Imagine closing down an entire amusement park.
Yeah, for them,
because 3 guys were there.
Yeah,
the Von Erichs, and they just descended upon them. Couldn't go anywhere. They were wrestling royalty.
Yeah, because my son, he watched the network and he watched the World Class documentary. So he got into the Von Erichs and he was like, Dad, it's such a tragedy. I was like, yeah. He goes, they lost a brother, when he was like 4 years old. Like, it started from a very early age. I'm like, yeah, that whole family, man. It's and how it branched off to the employees and then, all the other wrestlers and World Class. It's just such a sad, heartbreaking story.
Yeah, it's one of the big what ifs. It really changed the game because and I always remark David's death is what shook the wrestling world, and we never recovered from it because it was reported on every. I mean, Vince McMahon told me that David Von Erich died. That was on WWF television. That was on the AWA TV. Gene Okerlund broke the news. It was on all the territories in Florida. They mentioned it. In Georgia, they mentioned it. And obviously it was a day of mourning in Texas, but the death of David Von Erich, and this was a month into. This is 3 weeks, a month after Hulk Hogan won the championship, right before the expansion, Vince's expansion, that shook wrestling to the core. It was the last time that wrestling was in in the last of the territories, but that David's death galvanized the entire wrestling world. Harley Race made a speech on TV. Nick Bockwinkel talked about it on Stampede. Stu Hart made did an article in the Calgary newsletter about David Von Erich. This shook everything, had he lived, who knows where world class NWA would have gone.
Yeah.
They could have competed with the WWF at that point in terms of popularity and ratings, because their ratings were, through the roof in Texas. But yeah, that it changed the game.
Yeah, my uncle who loves wrestling, he's adamant that if after David died, if Kerry would have kept his nose clean and wasn't such a screw up, he goes, Kerry would have rivaled Hulk Hogan. He was like, no doubt in my mind.
Well,
God, yes.
Kerry was on the short list, Derek.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that. If
Yeah.
had Hogan, this is another what if, had Hogan stayed in the AWA, if Vern had been smart and put the AWA belt on him, that one of the people that Vince wanted when he wanted to expand was Kerry. It was between Dusty Rhodes and Kerry Von Erich. And Dusty obviously had the charisma and the interview who could have gotten over. But as far as we're talking the MTV era of wrestling, the Rock and Wrestling Connection, Kerry Von Erich fit that to a T. And could have, but Hogan was the right guy at the right time. But Kerry Von Erich was someone that Vince wanted, and because when he was going through his expansion, he offered to buy World Class, just like he offered to buy the AWA. And Vern and Greg told him politely, no, thank you. And Fritz told him to go fuck himself.
Yeah, my uncle, he almost gets upset. I got to bring him on his show one day. Like, he goes, Hogan and Piper made all that money. You mean to tell me Gino and Kerry couldn't make all that money too? And Gino would have been on MTV with the looks and the women. I'm like, okay, Uncle, I know. But yeah, he's adamant about Gino and Kerry.
I would too.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. But I think, but on the other side, Derek, because of the demons that Gino and Kerry had, it might have happened sooner. Because if the pressures of World Class, which was a large territory, and even though they're wrestling 5 nights a week, in WWF they would have been flying 5 nights a week. They wouldn't be driving; they would be flying to Chicago, to Miami, to Los Angeles, to Toronto, all in a given week. So their demons might have, accelerated to get their. So but Gino in the WWF, I thought Gino in the NWA, he would have been a perfect part of the Four Horsemen. He could have been the $1 Million Man in the WWF. So yeah, it's a lot of what ifs, but I also think it would have hastened their leaving because of the demons that they had.
I am not. I don't think I'm ready for that movie, man.
I'm
ready for that movie.
It's coming out of Christmas, folks. So
yeah, right.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I mean, since we're kind of talking about it, Dave Meltzer, you can hold that word as high or low as you like, depending on the day.
Yeah.
Says AEW cold. And my response to that is, well, welcome to 2023.
Yeah, where have you been, buddy?
All In was an exception as far as booking an entire show, and then they threw half of it out the next day by firing or the next week or whatever the fuck they fired CM Punk. I don't know. I don't know where Dave's been, but I feel we've been on this chilly road for a bit.
I watched the show, and some of the people who are my favorites, they just don't like. Where's Andrade? Why isn't Andrade on that show? He's a good worker. He has a good look. Why isn't he on the show?
Where's Miro?
Yeah, where's Miro at? Where, didn't he beat Hobbs, and now Hobbs is the guy that you're pushing for now, because I don't think that's going to last too damn long. Athena, who I love, why is she on the show that nobody watches in ROH? They did a cool vignette with Samoa Joe last week, and where's Joe? Like,
I still don't know. Yeah, and with Joe, with MJF, he's like, I'm gonna take everything from you, MJF, and I'm not gonna stop. And then they have one match where Joe loses,
and he stops,
and he shakes his hand, and then he just walks away into the sunset. Like, what happened to taking away everything that he had, and where'd that go? But yeah, that's a guy who should be on TV every week and should be in the main event picture every week. The AEW, no, it's ludicrous the amount of genuine talent they have. the people that they push instead of the people that should be pushed, because Tony Khan has a proclivity to one over the other. Why Orange Cassidy is his favorite guy, and why he thinks that putting a belt on him or keeping him undefeated and keeping him kicking out of every single thing where he's maybe the size of one of Hobbs's legs, why you couldn't give a push for a guy who looks like Hobbs that you can make a lot of money with, or even someone like, how many times have I mentioned how Wardlow was your Goldberg?
Oh.
How do you fuck that up?
Yeah. He should be following Ricky Starks out the door when Ricky leaves. Wardlow should be right behind him, following him.
But Wardlow was a guy that's in your company. You didn't have to break the bank to pay a great deal of. Got over by himself. Push the guy. Give him the undefeated streak he gave Orange Cassidy.
Yes.
You'd have people standing every time he comes up.
And if you had to put a title on somebody, why don't you take that? What is it, the international title, or whatever? Put it on Wardlow and let him crush people. Like when, and this is one of the good things Eric Bischoff did. He put the U.S. title on Goldberg and let Goldberg squash people. And
I'm looking at AEW, the roster. You have 12 people have belts on that show. Everyone's got a belt, so it doesn't mean anything. None of the belts mean nothing. Especially the Ring of Honor. You're holding the Ring of Honor belts of a company that doesn't exist. I mean, the name Ring of Honor means something, but there is no Ring of Honor there's no Ring of Honor Federation.
It was a real bad idea for him to take that on at the same time. And I'll say this, I will give him credit, and I appreciate him wanting to keep whatever the motive. I could care less, quite frankly. It's not important. I appreciate him trying, but he did not need the extra work right now.
Nope.
I mean, this isn't like Bischoff at the heat of, or at the rise of the ratings and going, need to start a third show and trying that. This is not a good idea, in my opinion.
And mine too. If you got 6 hours, if you got 3 shows on national television, why not use one of them, or your lowest rated one? Make that your Ring of Honor show.
Yes, might as well.
Put all your Ring of Honor people there, and don't have the twains meet. Don't have one of the, or have Collision be your Ring of Honor show, or just have, because now it's like you have one person, you have the same people on every single show. That's why your ratings suck. What stuck Collision out was because it was a wrestling show.
Yeah.
Obviously, at least when CM Punk was there. Now it's just like it's AEW Dark on Saturday night.
Yeah, Badass has a great point.
Yes.
AEW signs Billy Starks and sticks her on her Ring of Honor.
Yeah. Like what? And nobody feels special because it's so frustrating. Nobody feels special because as soon as they sign somebody, they run that person into the ground. They run them into the ground. Edge came out. He did the entrance. It was great. Then he does the promo with Christian. It's like cool. And then he's fighting Luchasaurus. And it's like, okay, well, I've seen it now.
Hey, Derek, remember when they were teasing the reunion of the Hardy Boys?
Yes.
And then Jeff Hardy comes back for the first time in how many years on free television to help out his brother, and then the next week he's wrestling in an 8-man match where he's going through a table on the concourse. So now that means nothing.
Yeah, they don't allow anybody to become. And like I was saying, I don't want Sasha or Mercedes to go there because she'll be a big deal for 1 or 2 weeks, and then after that she'll just be another woman on the roster.
Yes, you could thank the Booker of the Year for that, because
Booker of the Year, baby. Hey, that's what's important.
He doesn't listen to anyone there with any ounce of who's done it before, who knows how to do it. He's surrounded by veterans who know the business inside and out, and can teach him who to push and who not to push, how to best get the most out of the wrestlers. every match doesn't have to be 20 minutes. We're in wrestling purgatory right now because on WWE it's nothing but talk and 25-minute entrances and no wrestling. Whereas AEW, it's wrestling that goes on way too long. We don't need 20-minute matches. Everyone doesn't need to have 20-minute matches, especially in a tag team match. It go through 2 breaks and incredible maneuvers that look amazing on television, and then they kick out. So you just did all that for now. So what was the point of that incredible maneuver to kick out? Or the shit that Darby does that should result in a count out that you can get, okay, now Darby can come back for revenge. Nope, we got to keep going because that wasn't the finish. Even though he got slammed on the stairs and should be stretchered out, slam on the stairs, stretcher him out. Well, what happened to Darby? We don't know if he's coming back. We don't know if he'll ever be back. Bring him back in a neck brace. You try to end my career. Well, I'm going to end your career. Now you got something. But no, drop on the stairs. Don't count him out because there are no countouts in AEW. Stay outside for 10 minutes if you want. And then bring him back in the ring, and he's fresh as a daisy because he's going to kick out because that's not the finish. And we have to keep going to the finish.
They don't build anybody like, and Raw isn't a perfect show. But you know what? That's one Raw. I'm looking forward to seeing Bronson Reed versus Gunther. Why? Because they've made Bronson Reed look like a monster the past couple of weeks, and I already know Gunther's a monster, and I want to see what happens when they get in the ring with each other.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? They take a guy who last time I was on the show we were praising, and Ludwig Kaiser. We were praising this guy should be a star. Triple H takes over. The guy's getting video packages about he's a A+ specimen. Now I care about him. Like they're gonna have him and Giovanni. They're gonna fight DIY, and that's going to be an amazing tag team. Like they make you care about people. Whereas AEW, as soon as you start to care about them, they either don't put them on TV or they have them lose, and you don't care. Jey Uso, who went from being Roman's henchman, is one of the most over guys in the company now because they gave you a reason to care about him. And AEW, they don't give you a reason to care about anybody.
No.
I told you, by the way, about Jey Uso. Told you.
You did.
Yeah.
Said by Wrestle. I'm telling you, they will build that up by WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Not a problem. I'm for it. I'm all for it. Listen, I don't like to tell you I told you. To quote a great man, I'm not the kind of guy to say I told you so, but if I were the kind of guy to say I told you so, but then I tell you that I told you so, but I'm not that kind of guy.
And that Cody guy, he seemed to recover losing to Roman pretty well, right? He seems to be. It doesn't seem like the people's turned on him
yet. I'm sorry, not Ash. Michael says, I don't know. Ever since I saw Gunther dancing at his wedding, I just see a big lovable goof. Shit. Well, there goes that. Cancel that.
Yeah, he'll be dancing.
Shit. Well, you know what? I think it's time. Derek, if you still have time, that it is time for Craig to put on the hand of the professor. Takes down Little Trip.
What time is it? I have history. Oh, the boss. I have about 10 more minutes. The boss just texted.
Hurry up.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go back in time to where wrestling was wrestling and not sports entertainment, and it was all through all 50 states and It's my friend's a wrestling historian.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
We're going to wish a happy belated birthday to my favorite wrestler at the time, and still one of my, he's in my top 5 favorites and greatest of all time.
Hello, Amber.
Yes, I love Amber too. Happy belated 56th birthday to October 9th to Eddie Guerrero.
Hell yes. Arguably the greatest that's ever put a pair of trunks on.
He's so good. So even as a kid, and I would watch him on Nitro, he was so different than everybody else. It's like he's here and everybody else is down here. And I knew nothing about wrestling. So he stood out so much.
I'm throwing coffee on myself now, Eric.
Heel Eddie Guerrero in WCW was awesome because he would come out with that sneer, and he would find some person that he would just stare at and just hold a stare. And
yeah,
then
just
keep
this
walking.
one, right? The
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah. And they
They
just
just-
stare and they just walk. Obviously, Halloween Havoc '96 Rey Mysterio match. Again, top 5 greatest matches of all time. Maybe the greatest match in WCW history. Definitely. It still holds up. But yeah, at the time of his death, he was my favorite wrestler. His time
I
as
still
champion
can't
was
believe we
well
say
deserved.
that. I
Yeah.
cannot
right.
fathom a world like his shit. The shit is so fresh that
Mhm.
it might as well still be. He might as still be around. It just, ugh.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks because according to Shawn Michaels, like that Mania leading up, before his death, it was supposed to be him and Shawn at Mania, and it's just like, oh, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah,
thanks for making me more depressed. Other than that hairline, Sean. Thanks a lot, bud.
That's why Shawn took on Ray during the Eddie tribute show.
Yeah.
To do that for since he couldn't get it to
Ugh.
and he would have been the champion at Survivor Series that year. That was where they were headed. When his nephew found him in the bathroom. But yeah, but happy belated 2005. He's gone again. It's 18 years. He's been gone.
Oh my God. Yeah. My God.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks.
We go up and I forgot I was saying. No, but that was just a belated birthday. But October 10th, 1980 was an incredible day in professional wrestling history because 43 years later, it's still a part of professional wrestling because it's 1980 in the Omni in Atlanta. There was a round robin tournament to declare the new Georgia Tag Team Champions. And it was between the Assassins, Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2, and the Fabulous Freebirds. And the Fabulous Freebirds defeated both the Assassins and Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2 in 2 different bouts during the course of the evening. And the Freebirds used 2 different combinations. And when they won the Georgia Tag Team Championship, October 10th, 1980, they petitioned the NWA to enact the Freebird rule that states that any 2 of the 3 members of the team can defend the tag team championship at any time. And that rule, the Freebird rule, 43 years later, has been used in any 3-man faction that held a tag team with the New Day, the Jersey Triad, and the rise of the 3-man team would not, if there were no Freebirds, there would be no Wyatt Family Shield, etc. But go ahead, Dan.
That is who educated me on the Freebird rule because the Jersey Triad existed. And the first time they came out with the 3 of them, and I know I know Craig will know this, but Derek and I are close to age, so he and I were watching at the same time. When they came out the first time, and they were all 3 of them, and then you were like, well, those 2 are the champion. What the fuck is Canyon doing here?
Yeah.
In the ring. And Mike Tenay and Tony explained the Freebird rule. And I was like, even at that age, I was like, well, hell, I know who that is.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Put 2 together, like, damn. Okay.
But it started October 10th, 1980. When the Freebirds won the National Tag Team Championship. And that started their rise to fame because the Freebirds, this is October of 1980. We already mentioned in a previous wrestling story in August 2nd of 1980, they sold out the Superdome, still holds the record for the largest attendance and the largest paid gate at the Superdome in history. That was in August of 1980. Hogan versus Andre was on the undercard, and the Freebirds were the main event. Michael Hayes versus Junkyard Dog in a dog collar match. Well, Junkyard Dog was blinded, but it drew 30,000 people at the Superdome. And 3 months later, they were on TBS, national television, which was the highest rated cable network in the United States. So coming off the heels of selling at the Superdome, they went straight to Georgia to be on national television. And 3 months later, they were the Georgia Tag Team Champions. along with Buddy Roberts, Michael Hayes, and Terry Gordy, would be arguably the most influential tag team of all time. From Georgia, being the most watched tag team on national television, again on the Superstation, the early days of cable TV. They were one of the superstars of Superstation. From their 3-year time there to World Class, where they came in as faces and soon would turn heel thanks to the Christmas Day Cage Matchador spot heard around the world. Another thing that's been copied 40 years later.
Yeah.
Smashing a cage in someone's head again. Freebirds, right at the epicenter of it. From World Class, at Texas Stadium, Superdome, the Cotton Bowl, Comiskey Park against the Road Warriors in their hometown of Chicago. The Fabulous Freebirds, depending on who you ask, are the most influential tag team of this generation. But the 3-man team that's so popular now, still to this day, Imperium, Judgment Day, the Bloodline, would not be possible if not for the popularity of Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts. But it started October 10th, 1980, 43 years ago this week. The Freebird rule was put in effect. And that, go ahead.
And I was gonna say it's funny because they did the whole slam the cage thing. The only thing I've seen close to that in my years of watching the wrestling is when Kurt Hennig slammed Ric Flair's head in the cage when he turned on the Horseman. And I remember when he did it and they tried to make it like a big deal, and my dad was like, Hayes did it better.
Yeah. And I remember being so like gobsmacked by that just to hear, done already. And then you see it years later, you're like, oh well, all right.
Yeah, they stole the whole
My
whole
bad.
thing.
Still looked awesome, but I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I get it.
Yeah. They tried. Hey.
Yeah.
They said stop it. They said stop. And Nash is smiling, going, we're doing the Freebird thing. Fuck them.
Yeah. And then I remember the next night on Nitro, they had like Flair on the operating table, and he has all the markings for the surgery, but no facial damage. I remember thinking, oh man.
Yeah, but how could you tell? Flair always looked like that.
Yeah.
Waka Waka. He looked 70 when he was 30.
Yeah.
It's a lot of road. That's a lot of mileage on that, man.
You're thinking of Dennis Condrey.
Well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
But the Freebirds were awesome. And I went back and I watched some of that stuff, and my dad was like, how you can tell they bad? I was like, how, Dad? He goes, because they came out with Confederate flags, and I still enjoyed watching them wrestle. I was like, okay.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I ain't gonna argue with that, dude.
They had stars and bars, and it really hurt watch, because I remember reading about the Freebirds in the After magazines, and then finally seeing them on TBS in that tiny little ring that was like 2 feet off the the stage. But again, the ratings were moreover the first time you were putting a tag team as your main event, a 3-man team as your main event in any territory. And that they could go anywhere, and they were mobbed, and the heat they got in Mid-South, like I said, they pulled a gun on him when that story, right, Derek, about them pulling a gun on
but this is real heat these days.
yeah, because the Freebirds could come through the ring through the crowd back then in Mid-South and in Georgia and in Texas, and the heat everywhere they went again, and wearing a rebel flag as a robe that Michael had, and Terry Gordy had a rebel flag on his vest. They were like the Leonard Skinner of wrestling. Coming into Freebird, one of the first teams. Michael Hayes will tell you they were the first team to come in using music. They may have been the first tag team to do it. They weren't the first wrestlers to use the a theme song, but obviously they were the first to ever use Freebird.
That's just one of those arguments that I'm letting Michael Hayes have, basically because he won't shut up.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah, you were fine.
Even their dynamic, like the dynamic they had, it's still being stolen to this day, where you had the loudmouth the small coward and the big badass, and they all hid behind the big scary badass. Like even that dynamic to this day, everybody takes it too.
And what made it so freakishly good was how inherently good it with everything they did. Michael Hayes was just still one of the greatest talkers. And whenever I make any list of best promos of all time, Michael Hayes is always on that list. Terry Gordy was a prodigy. This was a kid at 15 who was 6'4", 250. He was in the ring with Ernie Ladd when he was 16 years old, and you couldn't tell because he was just that good and just that big. So by the time they were in their heyday, selling out, he was in the ring with Andre the Giant. Terry Gordy was with the Freebirds in Mid-South at the Riverfront Coliseum when he was 18 years old.
Yeah. I remember when he died, and they were like, he was like 43, 40. I was like, he was that young? And they was like, yeah, he did all that as a kid. And I was like, wow.
He seems ancient in wrestling.
Yeah. But a guy that good, I mean, it must be a Southern thing. But him, Bobby Eaton, never went to wrestling school, never had any formal training. They were just so naturally gifted at what they did and what made the Freebirds it, because they put Buddy Roberts with them because these are two incredibly green guys. Michael was only 20, Terry was 16.
Some would argue that Michael's still green.
I agree. He was just the world's, biggest manager, because that's why they put Buddy with him, because Terry was strong with the bull, didn't know his own strength. Michael couldn't wrestle for shit. So Buddy would be the guy that, makes up for their shortcomings. He can do the job, so you don't pin, the monster, and you don't, you keep the loudmouth, at bay. So you just wait to you just want to get your hands on him. So Buddy will take the pin. Buddy will do all the work. Buddy will do the hard part. And because Buddy was a party or two, he was the only guy that can keep up with a couple of 20-somethings. And they were the perfect trio. And like I said, still the most influential maybe of all time, because the fact that there's so many 3-man teams now in professional wrestling. But if not for them, there wouldn't be a 4 Horsemen. There wouldn't be NWO. The idea of putting a group as your main event instead of a single wrestler was foreign concept until the Freebirds.
And I love watching old videos of when Gordy went over to Japan with Steve Williams, and they were just dumping everybody on their heads, throwing guys around.
Yes,
that was crazy.
It was amazing. And the strong style, quote unquote, was just tailor made for them. If you ever see a Terry Gordy Stan Hansen tag team, it's like they're just committing legalized murder, because they're just like not even trying to hide the potato shots they're giving them. And but that's how Gordy always worked. He didn't know his own strength. He was, again, 6'4", 250 when he was fucking 15. The guy was just, and again, the quickest big man in the history of wrestling, because when he found his footing when he was 21, coming those world-class tapes, nobody quicker, no 300-pound man has ever moved as quickly as Terry Gordy. The snap suplexes, the running clotheslines, even just running the ropes and getting backdropped. I mean, he was just, the 3 of them.
Even I remember when he came to ECW and they said he had been, he was a shell of himself. He was still awesome then. Like, he still stood out from the crowd at ECW.
Terry Gordy, a shell of himself, would be AEW world champion right now. A guy that good, you don't lose. And because of the he was in a coma. He had been in a coma. And he had a lot of short-term memory loss, but you don't forget to move like that. And and his time in ECW was just it was really a treat to see him live again, because it was weird. I saw him in ECW, but I saw him live when the first, last, and only time they wrestled at the Spectrum. When they came out with Cyndi Lauper and David Wolf during the Rock and Wrestling period, was just, to see them live was incredible, and see all 3 of them, and just see the 2 of them, and just to see Terry was a treat. But they don't. Now I'm looking forward to seeing them on film, even though they'll probably have a short stint. But you can't tell the story of the Von Erichs without talking about the Freebirds.
Yeah.
You can't, and they were just trying to help the Von Erichs, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Don't you forget that, haters.
Yeah, that was the genius of Gary Hart, who was booking, because World Class at the time was like the late 90s, mid 90s WCW. It's where old wrestlers would go to finish out their career. Because you had guys that were Fritz's age, that were Fritz's friends, facing these young Von Erichs. We had Ox Baker, the Spoiler, Mark Lewin in World Class, and they would, they put Kevin and David and Kerry over. But Gary Hart said, well, why don't we get some young guys to go up against these younger superstars? We want to give them some young heels. So it was him that brought the Freebirds, along with Gino Hernandez, Chris Adams, and Jimmy Garvin, to World Class, that set it on fire. But yeah, the idea of putting young heels with young baby faces, wow, what a concept.
Right.
But yeah, that's the genius of Gary Hart. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, your 10 minutes is up. Derek,
Yes.
let's end the show quickly. Craig, where can people follow you?
They can follow me on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram at Craig Lagans, and also having Badass is back for the rest of her life.
Yes, we will have next time. Badass, as long as I'm not working, we'll step in. Derek's not on social media, so don't look for him. He's the smart one here. I'm the above. What was that?
I was going to say, I hope to join you one day, Derek.
Yes. Are you making any promises for 2 weeks from now, or we're going to see what we see? Because we're on a roll here, man.
Yeah, sure, why not? She's
I
the
like
boss
it.
has gotten, the boss has given me the okay. So yeah, I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Screenshot.
And also
Screenshot.
to anybody out there, whenever I mention Eddie Guerrero, I like to give people like suggestions, and it's a hidden gem of his. It's two of them. He had a random match against The Rock on Raw, which was amazing, and he was mad because his daughter had The Rock's picture hanging up on his wall. So him and The Rock had a great Raw match, and he also had a match with Steve Austin. I believe it was on Raw also, where he hit Steve Austin over the head with a beer bottle, and they had a match. But those two are like hidden classics from Eddie that I always tell people to watch. It was right before he started to break down a little bit. He wasn't as big. He was still in great shape, and those are two of my Eddie Guerrero matches.
I still watch his last match ever with Kennedy with the chip spot.
And he was still good, and they said, oh, he could barely move backstage, but you couldn't tell because once he got in the ring, he was still just as good.
Yeah, he never lost that.
But yes, Dan, I will be back in 2 weeks.
Good to think of what I was going to say. Thank you, Derek, for filling in the gap there. I froze up. Follow me, keeping it on the paper, and being threatened by a homophobe in my DMs at DanLaw83, and not giving a shit. You can find me. Just saying. HIACTalkRadio.com, all your podcast apps, HIAC Talk Radio Network. Look it up, like it, subscribe, listen. And as Michael, not Ash, says, I'll try not to get canceled in these 2 weeks. And if she does, we'll have another rant on it.
There you go.
From us. For Craig, for Derek, who will be returning next week. Like he said, I'm Dan. Keep it on the paper.